Gregory Peck shares secrets about James Stewart. Gregory Peck was born with the name Elder Gregory Peck on April 5, 1916 in La Jolla, California. He came from a family with Irish and English roots. His early life had some tough times. His mom and dad split up when he was just a little kid, and his grandma mostly raised him. Even though the separation was hard on him emotionally, Peck found comfort in school and sports. He later went to the University of California, Berkeley, where he studied English and classes to become a doctor before he figured out his real dream was in the arts. It was at Berkeley that he started acting in plays, and the stage quickly became his first true love after finishing college. Peck trained at the well-known neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater in New York City, where great teachers like Sanford Meisner helped him learn. His tall, impressive height of 6 feet 3 inches and his natural deep voice made him impossible to forget, and pretty soon, he started getting noticed on Broadway. But Hollywood soon wanted him, and the movie business quickly saw that Peck had both the good looks and the serious presence to become a top leading man. Peck's movie career took off in the 1940s with early hits in movies like The Keys of the Kingdom in 1944, which earned him his first Oscar nomination. People watching and movie critics loved the way he brought real feeling and honesty to his characters, staying away from fake performances and choosing meaningful portrayals instead, all through the 1940s and 1950 seconds. He became one of Hollywood's biggest stars, appearing in many different films that showed how talented he was. In Spellbound in 1945, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, he played a troubled man dealing with memory loss. In Gentleman's Agreement in 1947, he bravely took on the role of a reporter exposing hatred against Jewish people in America, a bold project at that time that made his reputation stronger as both a brave actor and a man who wasn't scared of touchy subjects. But if one role made Gregory Peck's legacy last forever, it was his performance as Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird in 1962, based on Harper Lee's Pulitzer Prize-winning book. The movie showed Peck as a Southern lawyer who defends an innocent black man accused of a terrible crime in the racially divided South. His performance, full of quiet strength, kindness, and solid honesty, became the perfect example of moral leadership in movies. For this role, he finally won the Academy Award for Best Actor, and Atticus Finch would later be named one of the greatest heroes in the history of American film by the American Film Institute. Peck himself later said that this was the role he was most proud of, not just as an actor, but as a person, because it matched so closely with his own beliefs about justice and fairness. Besides his movie work, Peck was a man with strong beliefs. He spoke out loudly in his support for helping people causes and fairness for everyone, using his voice for issues from civil rights to stopping nuclear weapons. He was given the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1969 by President Lyndon B. Johnson for his contributions to American culture and his commitment to making society better. He also worked as the president of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences and was active in the American Cancer Society, showing that his influence reached far beyond Hollywood. As his career kept going through the 1970s, 1980 seconds, and into the 1990s, Peck stayed a loved figure even as he slowly stepped away from main roles. He appeared in films like The Omen in 1976, a scary horror classic that introduced him to a whole new group of fans. In his later years, he received special awards, including the Offie Life Achievement Award in 1989, recognizing not only his artistic accomplishments, but also his lasting impact as a moral example in American cinema. Gregory Peck's personal life was as eventful and touching as his legendary career on screen, filled with both times of happiness and moments of deep tragedy. In October 1942, at the very beginning of his rise in Hollywood, Peck married Finnish-American Greta Kukkonen, who lived from 1911 to 2008, a woman of strength and quiet dignity who supported him through the early years of his acting journey. Together, they built a family and had 3 sons. Jonathan was born in 1944, Stephen was born in 1946, and Carrie Paul was born in 1949. For more than 10 years, the Pecks seemed to represent the perfect Hollywood family. But underneath the surface, their relationship started to fall apart. In December 1955, after 13 years of marriage, Peck and Greta finished their divorce, a decision that would forever change the path of his personal life. The most heartbreaking blow of Gregory Peck's life came years later, long after the divorce. His oldest son, Jonathan, who had gotten much of his father's charm and smarts, was found dead in his home on June 26, 1975. Police said it was an apparent suicide. A shocking and heartbreaking event that shook Peck to his core. Years later, when talking about the loss, Peck admitted with raw honesty, "It's the most terrible thing that has happened to me in my life. You never get over a thing like that." Those words showed the depth of a father's grief, pain that stayed with him for the rest of his days. But out of heartbreak also came new beginnings. On New Year's Eve in 1955, just one day after his divorce was finalized, Peck started a new chapter. He married Véronique Passani, who lived from 1932 to 2012. A beautiful Parisian journalist who had first met him in 1952 while interviewing him before he left for Italy to film Roman Holiday. Their connection was instant but patient. They didn't start dating until months later when Peck invited her to lunch. From that moment on, the two became inseparable, forming one of Hollywood's longest-lasting and most admired marriages. Together, Gregory and Véronique had two children. Their son Anthony was born in 1956, and their daughter Cecilia was born in 1958. Both would later find their own places in the creative world. Anthony becoming an actor and producer, and Cecilia going into acting and documentary filmmaking. The marriage survived the tests of time and fame, staying strong and devoted until Peck's death in 2003, nearly half a century after they said, "I do." The Peck family tree grew bigger through marriages and grandchildren, creating new connections to the world of entertainment. Gregory's son, Anthony, was once married to world-famous supermodel Cheryl Tiegs, while one of his grandsons from his first marriage, Ethan Peck, followed his grandfather's footsteps into acting. Today, Ethan is known for carrying the family legacy forward, showing not only Peck's striking looks, but also the same sense of dignity and presence that made Gregory Peck one of Hollywood's greatest stars. Gregory Peck, one of Hollywood's most respected leading men, was not only admired for his powerful performances in films such as To Kill a Mockingbird and Roman Holiday, but also for his warm personality and thoughtful ideas about his colleagues. Among the many actors he knew well, one stood out in particular, James Stewart. Stewart, with his slow drawl, tall skinny frame, and honest charm, was loved by audiences around the world. But according to Gregory Peck, there was much more to Stewart than what the public saw on the movie screen. In several conversations over the years, Peck shared insights into Stewart's private character, his professional discipline, and even his insecurities, what Peck himself called James Stewart's secrets. "Jimmy always looked so natural, so effortless," Peck explained in one interview. "But the truth is, he worked harder than anyone I knew. He wasn't just stepping in front of a camera and being himself. He was careful and detailed. He studied scripts. He analyzed characters. And he thought deeply about the reasons behind every line. That was one of his secrets. People assumed he was just that wholesome boy next door, but in reality he was a trained craftsman." Peck wanted the public to understand that Stewart's seeming simplicity was in fact the result of discipline and preparation, not just luck or natural charm. Peck also revealed that Stewart carried with him a surprising amount of self-doubt. He worried more than he let on about whether he was really good enough, Peck recalled. "Even after Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and It's a Wonderful Life, Jimmy would say to me, 'Greg, do you think I've got another good one in me?' That humility, that uncertainty, that was another of his secrets. People thought of him as so confident, so steady, but privately he questioned himself in a way that made him even more human." Peck admired that quality, noting that it was exactly Stewart's honesty about his fears that made him relatable both to his friends and to his audience. Another thing Peck shared about Stewart was the depth of his loyalty. "Jimmy wasn't just polite. He was deeply loyal," Peck said. "If you were his friend, you were his friend for life. He would write letters. He would check in. He would quietly help when you needed it. That kind of loyalty doesn't make the headlines, but it's the glue that held so many of his relationships together." Peck himself experienced this firsthand during times of personal difficulty, remembering how Stewart had sent handwritten notes of encouragement and even small thoughtful gifts. According to Peck, these gestures were another of Stewart's secrets. The quiet ways he supported those he loved without drawing any attention to himself. Peck also told stories about how Stewart's military service left a lasting mark on his soul. "Jimmy didn't talk much about the war," Peck revealed, "but I could see it in his eyes. He carried the weight of what he'd seen and done, that sense of responsibility and seriousness. It shaped the way he lived and the way he acted. People always said he had that quality of decency on screen." But it wasn't just acting. It came from what he had lived through. Peck suggested that Stewart's ability to play characters with such deep moral conviction came directly from the difficult truths he had faced as a bomber pilot in World War II. There was also a lighter side to Stewart that Peck delighted in sharing. Another secret. Jimmy had a mischievous sense of humor, Peck said with a smile. You wouldn't expect it because he seemed so proper, but he loved practical jokes. He would pull little tricks on set, like hiding someone's hat or purposely messing up a line to break the tension. That was part of who he was, a man who didn't take himself too seriously. In summing up his reflections, Peck once remarked, the real secret about Jimmy was that he never let Hollywood change him. Fame never corrupted him. He remained the same decent, hard-working, humble man from Indiana that he had always been. That's why audiences loved him, because what they saw was not fake. It was Jimmy's truth. For Gregory Peck, sharing James Stewart's secrets was not about exposing hidden flaws or weaknesses, but rather about honoring the man behind the myth. He wanted the world to know that Stewart's greatness came not only from talent, but from vulnerability, loyalty, humor, and humanity. If there's a secret to Jimmy Stewart, Peck concluded, it's that he was as good a man off screen as he was on it. And that's saying a lot. On June 12, 2003, the world lost one of its most lasting icons of stage and screen when Gregory Peck passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 87. The beloved actor, whose career had lasted more than 5 decades, and whose performances left a permanent mark on the art of cinema, died from bronchopneumonia at his home in Los Angeles. The timing of his passing, quiet, gentle, and in the comfort of his own bed, seemed fitting for a man whose public image was one of grace, dignity, and compassion. Peck had long been admired not only for his artistic achievements, but also for his personal integrity, and his death marked the end of an era in Hollywood. A goodbye to one of the last great figures of the golden age of film. At his side during those final hours was his devoted wife, the French journalist and philanthropist Véronique Passani-Peck, with whom he had shared nearly half a century of marriage. Véronique had been his steadfast partner since their wedding in 1955, and together they built a life centered around love, family, art, and helping people causes. Her presence at his deathbed was a testament to the deep bond they shared, a love story that had survived the trials of fame, loss, and time. Those close to the couple later recalled how Véronique never left his side in the days leading up to his death, showing the same quiet strength and loyalty that had characterized their union throughout the years. Following his passing, Gregory Peck was laid to rest in a manner fitting his stature, not only as a movie legend, but also as a man of deep faith and quiet spirituality. He was entombed in the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Angels Mausoleum in Los Angeles, a modern yet sacred space that has become the final resting place of many prominent figures. The cathedral, a symbol of both tradition and renewal within the Catholic community, provided a peaceful and dignified setting for admirers and loved ones to honor his memory. To those who gathered, it was not merely the burial of an actor, but the farewell to a moral compass, a man who had shown decency on screen and lived it in his personal life. The funeral service itself carried layers of symbolism and deep emotional meaning. One of the most touching moments came when the eulogy was delivered by actor Brock Peters, a close friend and fellow performer who had shared one of the most powerful on-screen relationships with Peck. Peters was best known for playing Tom Robinson, the black man falsely accused of rape in To Kill a Mockingbird in 1962, the film in which Peck gave his career-defining performance as the principled lawyer Atticus Finch. In that role, Peck's character had defended Robinson in one of cinema's most moving courtroom dramas, a story that reflected America's ongoing struggles with race, justice, and morality.